Good morning and welcome, everyone. It's great to see the group that we have here with us today. And welcome to the information session on the New York Wine and Grape Foundation's export program activities, specifically focusing this morning on the Western European market. I'm Kyle Palashek, the Director of Programs here at the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. Again, so happy to see a lot of familiar names, not so much faces since everyone has their cameras turned off, but I also look forward to getting to know others across the state as we continue to work together, building on the years that Val Roth put in and her incredible work and focus that was so critical to pushing forward our export program. As mentioned during our webinar on Tuesday, please note that wineries currently signed up to participate in the export program will be invited to attend our export advisory group meeting on Thursday, September 4th at 11 a.m. Before we dive in, again, offer my sincere apologies for the short notice on the scheduling of this meeting, and a huge thank you to our market reps who were able to pull their presentations together so quickly. We made sure to push these to get these market overviews to you now because we wanted our market representatives to have the opportunity to share their insights prior to the Scandinavian and Japanese buyer visit coming up in just a couple weeks at the end of August. The export program is incredibly important to us and the participating wineries. We're truly leading the way for New York wines and the New York wines brand worldwide. Since 1993, the program has been made entirely possible by funding from the USDA's Foreign Ag Service, along with all of the wonderful support we receive from their attachés and the agricultural counselors in each of our markets. Their partnership has been tremendously helpful, especially as market conditions and sales environments have evolved. Our efforts, supported by our partners, have led to continuous improvement and increased grant funding year over year. Pleased to welcome our market reps for the Western Europe folks today, and also Kirsten Kurz from Bryant Christie International. And as a reminder, BCI is a market development firm that works with agricultural trade groups like the Foundation, helping us to manage, strategize, and execute all export program activities globally, ensuring we operate efficiently and in a compliant manner. As a longtime partner, we've been able to continuously improve our program and increase our grant from the USDA through the partnership of BCI. So with that, I will pass it over to Katie from the Think Drink Global Group.
Thank you, Kyle. Hi, everyone. Good morning from California. Yes, it is dark outside. It's not summer. Summer's fast fading away. So I am 1/3 of Think Drink Global, and we've been working with the New York Wine and Grape Foundation since 2020. So we've seen the ups and downs, the crazy, and we've made it through, kind of adapting our programming as needed. So we're really excited to kick off this next program year. And just a little bit about us, for those of you who don't know. So we are sort of a special entity in the world of agencies. We're an alliance of 3 different independent agencies. So I represent O'Donnell Lane, based in Sonoma, California. We have R&R Teamwork in London, based in London. We have Eleanor here and Ely. And then we also have Vin Connexion, based in Paris, France, and representing them, we have Aurélie in Paris and Elizabeth in Boston. So we're truly global here, based all around the world, but with boots, most importantly, boots on the ground in Western Europe, where we are representing New York. So we do have a few. You'll wonder why, why California is involved, but so my role really is more on the digital front in the online activations we do, and then Vin Connexion and R&R handle the on the ground in-person activation. So without further ado, we'll kind of move through these different markets, and I'll pass it on to Ely to talk about what's coming up in the UK.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, afternoon, night, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar names and faces. I was lucky enough to visit the Finger Lakes just this past year, so really excited to be working on this project and going over the plans for the next program year. Before we do that, we're just going to do a brief overview of each of the countries that we're operating in, starting off with the United Kingdom, which is where me and Eleanor are based. So the United Kingdom is quite a significant market, obviously, in terms of size and in consumption. There are 69.5 million people in the UK, which has led to a market estimation of £14.5 billion or $19.5 billion. Like in many of the markets across the world, and I'm sure you've heard this from everybody, the on-trade sector is struggling a little bit with rising prices, cost of living, that sort of fun thing. But this has led to a majority of the wine in the UK, around 65% being sold via the off-trade channels. This mostly occurs in the UK and the 900 plus independent retail merchants in the UK. As for what the Brits are drinking, the good news is they are willing to spend on wine. So the average price per bottle in these independent shops is around £17 or around $23. And the British drinkers tend to gravitate towards lower alcohol wines, organic and sustainable wines, and brands with a story and an experience beyond the glass. All of these factors, of course, which work really well with the New York wines due to their strong narrative pull and also, again, the lower alcohol, organic, sustainable accreditations that so many of the New York wineries have. As for successes from the previous program year, we had really great success introducing more consumer events into our program last year. The London consumer event that we hosted specifically had around 50 people attend, and directly as a result, we sold over £3,000 worth of New York wines, which demonstrates the appetite for New York wines, especially once you get in front of people talking New York, tasting New York. There's a huge appetite for New York wines once you get them in front of people. As for plans, we're going to generally skip over them for now because we will leave Eleanor to talk about them a bit more in depth later. So we will move on to our next market, which is Ireland. In comparison, a smaller market in terms of size, but not necessarily in volume, as wine is actually the country's second most popular beverage behind beer, obviously, making it a strong foothold for New York wines. So overall, alcohol consumption per adult has declined around 5% last year, but it's not something to worry about because they had very high levels of drinking to begin with. So this has actually brought them down to more regular levels across the EU and also closer to recommended consumption levels. In 2024, the on versus the off trade valuations were essentially quite similar, hovering around €1 billion or $1.1 billion. But the off trade slightly outpaces the on trade, and the off trade is also expected to grow around 1% annually. As for what the Irish are drinking, red wine dominates with a 48% market share, with white wine dominates with a 48% market share. Red wine closely follows at 45%. The preferred origins for wine drunk in Ireland is a bit of a mix of old and new. Chile has 25% of the share, followed by Spain and Australia. And Irish drinkers very similarly are moving towards organic, biodynamic, sustainable, narrative-led wines. Again, a great opportunity for New York wines, as so many of them hit on these points. And an important consideration for selling wines we wanted to mention, especially in Ireland, due to the aforementioned very high drinking rates, taxes on alcohol in Ireland are some of the highest in all of the EU. So the excise rates on alcohol have been frozen since 2014, but since then have been hovering around €3 a bottle. Again, they're frozen, so they're not expected to grow anymore, but it's just something worth considering because it does end up costing the consumers quite a bit of money. But the good news is this has led to a proliferation of alternative formats such as bag-in-box and bulk wines. And again, we'll be discussing some of the plans to show off the New York wines in Ireland after we go through each of the countries.
Hello, everybody. I am glad to be here as well, and I am happy I will visit Finger Lakes and Long Island in a few days with 3 Scandinavian buyers. So I will meet and see again some of you. Liz and myself will present you a few figures in some European countries. I will start with Scandinavian countries market. You know that with the current situation, buyers wish market will reopen as their interest in New York wines is still very present. Scandinavian countries with the highest wine consumption are Denmark and Sweden. Sweden wine market is growing, driven by an increasing interest in premium and imported wines. You all know that the Swedish monopoly Systembolaget is one of the world's largest buyers of alcoholic beverages. to enter the Swedish market, there's one rule: you have to go through an importer to do anything. Swedish consumers are mature and they seek higher quality products. Regarding to our activities, buyers will establish contact with, still confirm they're interested. For example, one who visited last year, her manager is in contact now with the winery and she hopes it will follow, even if she says the price is a bit challenging. Another example is USA product manager from Arvid Nordics, who was at the booth at Vinexpo 2 years ago and regrets she can't participate to the trip, but she wishes to keep informed. This trip at the end of the month will include a buyer from Sweden who was present at the last tasting in Stockholm in February. They will visit the vineyard and taste wines from all wineries export program members. And then we'll speak about plans later. Let's move in France with Liz.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So let's take a look at the French market. So France is, I think as many of you know, the #1 country in the world for wine consumption. The French still primarily enjoy drinking wine amongst friends during the apéritif, which is the happy hour, or at dinner. And wine is inherently part of the culture and attached to conviviality. Though French do drink more at home than in restaurants, they still very much drink in restaurants. And an interesting fact, especially for New York wines, is that over 65% of wine drinkers in France today drink foreign wines. And that is a big jump from the only 6% of foreign wine consumers back in 2020. As for consumption tastes, white wine, rosé, and champagne are slightly preferred today over red wine, but at a very slim margin. And with regard to consumer habits, there is, similarly to Ireland and the UK, a growing concern by consumers on environmentally friendly growing methods and small producers. And we are happy to report that a New York winery is already exported today in France. We are following up with wine buyers looking to cooperate with wineries in New York. And during Wine Paris this upcoming February, a dinner will be organized for foreign and French trade and media. Thank you. Oh, Aurélie, you're mute.
Sorry,
Voilà.
it's okay. Sorry. Thank you, Liz. I was saying that Denmark is the only open Nordic wine market without a monopoly. It is also a platform for re-export to the Nordic countries. Wine consumption has been rising for several years. We notice classic European regions as Italy and France, but the Danish wine market is benefiting from a growing interest in national and international wines. As Danish consumers become more affluent, there is also a demand for high-quality wines increasing, and sustainability and organic products influence wine consumption. Different events are planned in 2026, just before Wine Paris, tastings for trade and consumers. We'll talk about it later. I suppose we'll organize with Kjell Johnson, who's been buying New York wines for years. Let's move in Belgium.
All right, let's look at Belgium. So Belgium is among the top wine consumption countries in the world for quite a small country because there's only 11.7 million people. Young and old, traditional French, new world, old world. The wine market is leaning towards more quality consumption today in Belgium than quantity. Supermarkets take over the lion's share of the market, although urban consumers in international cities such as Brussels are increasingly opting for independent wine shops. Belgium is an interesting case due to the fact that it's a multifaceted nation with two distinct regions. Wallonia, with its French influence and culture, prefers traditional, mostly French wines, whereas Flanders, with its Dutch influence, is more international and prefers modern and international wines, specifically and especially white wines. We have maintained our partnerships with Hervé Lelot and Mark van Helmont, two premier wine journalists in Belgium, who have showcased New York wines in the past year and who organized a Thanksgiving tasting in Brussels back in 2023. And we will, of course, continue to foster our relationship with King Contacts in Belgium and are planning to invite some Belgian buyers to the stands at Wine Paris to try some New York wines.
In Norway, Vinmonopolet represents now less than 60%. More than 40% of consumers buy from other channels, compared with 25% only in 1999. In 2025, consumers are more connected, more curious, and more demanding. The result is that online sales are exploding. 2/3 of the wines come from Europe. US red wines in 4th position. Red wines, you can see, stay the most consumed with 41%. We established contact with a few buyers. Christian Herbstrom received samples 2 years ago, participated at Meet the Makers, and at the November trip last year. He bought wines that just launched last June. We plan activities in February, a tasting in Oslo around Wine Paris. A buyer from a major company will visit the vineyard at the end of the month during the next trip. We can go to Germany.
All right, let's look at the German market. So Germany is an interesting case study, similar to Belgium, but for a different reason. Due to regional fragmentation and historical context, premium wine purchasing is still higher today in West Germany, where the GDP is stronger than in East Germany. Most German wine shops import only a small part of their foreign assortment directly. The majority of non-German wines come from portfolios of large importers, such as Gute Wein in Bremen or Weinhandlung Kreis in Stuttgart. So in Germany, it is very important to go through large importers. Germany, as some of you may know, is dominated by high volume retailing, with discounters and supermarkets accounting for 50% of sales, with discounters such as Aldi and Lidl having the largest share. However, specialist wine shops, which include both large chains and smaller independent retailers specializing in wines from specific regions, and also foreign wines, account for 20% of retail wines, which is quite an important value for New York wines. For the type of wines that they prefer, low acidic, soft, lush, and round red wines, fruity whites. They have a large interest as well, similar to Ireland and the UK, in organic, biodynamic, natural, and no-low alternatives. And finally, we are pleased with the interest for New York wines after the successful partnership surrounding the NFL game last year in Germany. Also, Konstantin Baum, the master of wine with 55,000 followers on Instagram and 188,000 on YouTube, will visit the vineyards in November and produce a YouTube video and organize a masterclass of New York wines in Germany. Finally, we've established contact with buyers in Germany that are now themselves collaborating with some of the wineries, and we are continuing to expand our relationships with them. Thank you.
We'll finish in Finland. Unlike other Scandinavian countries, the Finnish wine market is governed by a state monopoly, Alko, but it remains generally open and accessible. There is a development of on-trade importers and a strong emergence of small importers over the last few years. They focus on specific niches such as organic, biodynamic, and natural wines, or confidential, atypical wines, are wines from small, little known regions. Red wines still dominate import volumes, but the trend is dynamic for rosé and bubbles. He was at the tasting we organized in Helsinki in February 24 with SC Avelin, and he also came to the booth at Wine Paris. Martin Nordel will also come in the vineyard at the end of the month with us, and we will carry on our work to establish more and more contacts. And that's it.
All right, and we'll finish off with the Netherlands. So the Netherlands is the largest wine market of the smaller Western European countries and is very open to trying wines from the New World. Similar to Belgium, supermarkets dominate the lion's share of the wine sale market with 70%. But, and this is interesting for New York wines, there is a very modern culinary scene in Holland with Michelin star restaurants, and therefore the Netherlands hospitality market is ripe and eager today for premium wines, way more than it used to be. Another important trend that I think we have all brought up in the different countries that we showcased is the clear consumer interest and demand for organic, biodynamic, and sustainably produced wines. And for the Netherlands, there's also an interest in hybrid and lesser known grapes, and as well the no-low alternatives. And this should attract more interest for, of course, New York wines. As for our relationships with the Dutch, we are continuing to foster relationships with our contacts, and we are in communication with the editor-in-chief of Holland's major wine magazine, who plans to come visit vineyards in New York. And finally, at Wine Paris in February, we will invite trade and media to come try New York wines. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So that sort of wraps up a quick overview on our key markets, to just help you understand the opportunities and the positioning across each of them. We're now going to take you through our plans for the next 12 months. There's quite a lot going on, and hopefully lots of opportunities for everyone to get involved in ways that work for you. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but the first things that are happening for our markets are 2 inbound trips. So Aurélie coming out to New York at the end of this month with 3 buyers from Scandinavia to visit wineries and winemakers in both Finger Lakes and Long Island. And it's worked out really well because we're collaborating with the Japanese team, so that we've got a truly international group of buyers coming out to see you all. Then we're also organising a trip at the start of October for Konstantin Baum, who's going to come out and meet some wineries and gather content to produce a YouTube video for his channel, which, as Elizabeth said, has got over 180,000 subscribers. And then also, once he's been out there, got to know the region a bit better, look at doing a masterclass for trade in Germany as well. I think Kyle's reached out to some of you with dates for this, and I'll be following up soon to sort out specific visits for Konstantin. I'm going to hand back to Katie to talk about Meet the Makers, which is coming back for a 3rd iteration this year.
That's right. Thanks, Eleanor. So this is one of our digital activations for the program year. So this will take place online, virtual speed dating, if you will, with a group of buyers selected from the Western European market. So we've done this, we've got a few iterations, and we've collected some very valuable feedback, both from the buyer participants and from wineries who have participated. So we think we have it pretty well dialed in, and we hope that this session will be the best yet. We are working with Tamlyn Curran of JancysRobinson.com. She's helped us over the past few iterations, so it's really great to kind of dial it in with her. She's such a fan of New York wines, and she does a great job of offering a little bit of education before we roll into the sort of speed dating opportunities where you as wineries get one-on-one time with these buyers. So in lieu of a, in-person visit at a large trade fair, or, having them come over across the pond, this is a way for you to really get that one-on-one time to taste and talk about your brand and your wines with those buyers. So we have one session on the books for January, so please keep a lookout. That will come through Bottle Books, and we will accept registrations that way if you're looking for imports into a new market. Thank you.
And then the other trade activities we've got planned for this year, we are going to take a space at the Cool Climate Summit in Copenhagen in January. This is a relatively new trade event that's really sort of gaining some traction across in Europe. I know last year a lot of people travelled over from the UK to go, as well as other countries as well. So we're going to have a space where we can show generic wines, and then also pour some wines from wineries who've already got an importer in Denmark, as the audience is also sommeliers and people like that. So it's a good opportunity for your importer to show the wines to people who might want to list them. We're just sort of finalising down the final details, but we're going to work with Dan Belmont to help us host the stand, and also use a local sommelier to pour. But there's opportunities for everybody to get involved, whether you're in Denmark or want to be in Denmark, and we'll be putting details out via Bottle Book soon, just so that you know how you can get involved and what we're looking for. The big one in February next year, we're going back to Wine Paris again. We're going to go it alone this year, which is really exciting, so we can have our own New York presence at the show. We're going to take a slightly bigger space so that we can offer up to 6 wineries the chance to have an individual booth at the show, as well as keeping the generic table, so there's opportunities for everybody to show wines. I think Liz mentioned earlier, we're also going to do a trade and media dinner one night throughout Wine Paris in a local restaurant, so an opportunity for winemakers to meet a bit more intimate setting, media and trade, and show wines there. So as in previous years, there's various opportunities for you to get involved. You can take an individual space, have your own booth there, and set up meetings and use it for really good business opportunities. You can submit wines for the generic stand, and as in previous years, we'll be fully funding 2 people to travel over and be our general New York representatives at the show. Feedback from last year was that people wanted to do more while they're in Europe. So next year we're going to give you lots of opportunities to do more, and hopefully we'll get lots of people wanting to sort of do a little European roadshow with us. So prior to Wine Paris, we're planning on organising a trade tasting in Norway on the Thursday before Wine Paris. We're going to work with Marius Odland there, who's been out to New York before, so knows the wines and the region well. As well as there being a walk around trade tasting, a masterclass, we're also going to try and arrange a meeting with the monopoly buyers on a sort of one-to-one basis. So before the tasting starts, there's an opportunity to show some New York wines to them. As with Wine Paris, various opportunities. So you can submit wines for the tasting. You're very welcome to come and join us there on your own dime if you're coming over for Wine Paris and want to add on a few extra days to your trip. And then the 2 fully funded places will also include Norway as part of their travel plans when they come over from Wine Paris. From Norway, we're going to hop across to Denmark for the Friday and do an event in Copenhagen on the Friday, working with Cal Johnson, who's imported New York wines for many years now, and is a big fan of the region as well. Again, it will be a sort of walk around trade tasting, media participants as well, and opportunities the same. So you can submit wines to be poured at the tasting. You can come join us there if you want to. And our 2 fully funded travel members will be visiting Copenhagen on their trip around Europe.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
How are you doing the sign-ups for the individual booths for Wine Paris this year?
We'll do it similar to last year. So we'll send out a travel application form with all the different options on, and then you can tick whichever box you want to, and get your applications in, and then we'll allocate things out based on sort of what the interest is for, and who gets their applications in early and things like that.
And when will that be coming out?
We were just talking about it yesterday. I think it will be sort of early September, so in the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks.
Great, thank you.
No worries. And then we're going to finish off our European tour in London. So it's going to be a busy few days, but hopefully really worthwhile few days as well. So the Thursday after Wine Paris, we're going to have our finale tasting in London, just to sort of keep everyone on their toes. Trade and media, hoping to do a nice central London venue and get lots of people to come along and taste wines. And again, opportunities as before, so you can submit wines for the tasting, which the team will pour. You can come over and join us and pour the wines yourself. And then it will be the final stop for the 2 fully funded travellers to come and represent New York. And then after that, we'll let you go home and sleep for about a week and a half to catch up with everything that we've made you do whilst you're over here. The other trade opportunity we're looking at for the next programme year, we did this a couple of years ago, so we're looking to do something similar again with Wines Unearthed, which is a specific show for people who are seeking representation in the UK. We looked after the stand ourselves, so we just had a generic booth and we poured wines from wineries that were seeking representation in the UK. It's just quite a nice opportunity to put wines in front of lots of importers and buyers who are interested in trying new things. We're hoping that logistics will work out so that we can use leftover bottles from the trade tasting in February to pour here, so that we're not having to do extra shipments. But again, we'll factor that in when we're doing the bottle books events, so that if you're wanting wine specifically for this, you can send an extra bottle or two and make sure that they get poured there. Moving on to some consumer activities that we've got planned for the next year. So after the success of the trade tasting that we did in Sweden in February, we're going to work with Maria again to organise a consumer tasting in Sweden, working with the team at Vincolor and Grapp again, which is a really nice private members wine club, focusing on wines that people can buy in Sweden via the system Balaget. We're just sort of finalising the format as to whether it will be a masterclass, sort of in a bit smaller, or a bit more of a walk around tasting. So that's coming up. Then to coincide with all the activities in February, we're also doing a consumer dinner in Copenhagen with Cal Johnson in February for about 70 consumers, sorry. And again, that will focus on wines that people can buy in Denmark. We've got a couple of consumer activities planned in the UK. I think a couple of years ago, just as we were coming out of COVID, we did some really nice virtual tastings with Jimmy Smith at the West London Wine School. So we're aiming to work with him again to do one virtual and one in-person tasting, focusing solely on New York wines. So again, that will be looking at wines that are available to buy in the UK, but putting them in front of real wine enthusiasts and wine-loving consumers, so that hopefully we can drive some sales. And then following the success of the tasting that we did with Dan at Good Wine, Good People in May this year, we're going to do another New York tasting for consumers, looking to go a little bit bigger this time, so have a few more attendees and pour some wines that people can buy, and hopefully drive some sales of New York wines and get a few more fans on board. With both these and the Sweden tastings, if you're in market and want to join us on any of these dates, we'd always love to have people along, but there's absolutely no obligation. We will run them, but having a New York representative or a winery rep there is always a nice thing for consumers to meet someone from the region as well. And then just throughout the year, we're here to sort of just keep things going, look for ad hoc opportunities. So whether that's things with the FAS or working with different media, sharing news with the media as it comes out, and making sure that we're sending samples out to people for relevant opportunities as they come up throughout the year. I think you know us all by now, but obviously we're all here if you've got any questions as the year goes on and there's anything that you need to know. But in terms of next steps, as I mentioned, the travel application form for February activities will hopefully be coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So look out for that in early September if you want to participate in any way. And the team will also be starting to get bottle books invites set up and sent out to you, so that you can start to submit wines for the different activities. The plan at the moment is to try and get all the wines sent over to Europe before the end of the year. So these will all be kind of being filled in and put together over the next couple of months. So we'll share timelines with you in the next few weeks.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone from the Think Drink Global team for sharing a lot of really good information today. Just as a reminder to the wineries that are not only on the call right now, but also that are watching this afterwards, a reminder that participating in individual markets is beneficial to folks looking for representation, as well as those who already have importers in the market. There's opportunities to show wines, make more connections. And I think Eleanor outlined a lot of different spaces where wineries in both sides, looking for importers and already existing in the market, have a lot of opportunities to connect with trade and consumers. So welcome to unmute or put a comment in the chat if you've got questions. For all of the travel opportunities, we are going to be working on streamlining the consistency and application process on how we select and who we select. And we're also working on sharing grant opportunities that the wineries can apply for independently for those self-funded travel, because I know a lot of you are interested in doing this. And there are ways to self-fund your travel, but not actually have it come out of your bank account. So watch for some things that we share from the Global New York team in the coming weeks as well. Any questions, comments? All right. Then we'll wrap it up. Obviously, everyone knows that if you have any questions after this, feel free to reach out to anyone on the team, myself, Kirsten. Happy to make it all happen, and looking forward to hosting Orly and our guests in just a couple weeks. So we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank